In this episode, we take a project that's taken almost 2 years to complete, but we're finally getting there.
I'm calling it done.
To go from the truck itself to then touch the screws, and then the screws go up and touch a plate, and then they go up into the end of the car.
I show you how I address the pesky roof walks. We go into a comparison on all the different flat finishes that are out there and apply it to the car to see exactly what one works best. We show a young modeler what it takes to be able to upgrade their cars, and it's not just for kids, it's for adults too. We also check out what the curmudgeon's gripe of the week is this week, only in this episode of SOO The Milwaukee Road.
Alright, today we're going to do a basic coupler upgrade. We've got our little guy here. Hello! That is going to upgrade this side of the car. I'm going to upgrade this side of the car, but we're going to show you how it is done. First thing we're going to do is unscrew the truck.
No matter the level of modeler, I highly encourage doing these type of upgrades to help improve the performance of your rolling stock.
Alright, now that we've got our trucks off, we're going to remove the coupler pocket. So we're going to remove the plate. He's going to do his side, I'm going to do mine.
Go ahead and unscrew yours right there, buddy.
I know many are like, why a Bachmann 40-foot? This is actually helping a younger modeler learn the techniques.
Alright, today we're putting in a KD flat spring. He's going to be putting in KD number 5s on his car, so he's got that one here, and what you do is you set it in the pocket, right like that there. You can put yours in. Okay, now you got your flat spring in place. We're putting in KD number 5s. Here's your number 5 coupler, and you just put it right like that. Now you're going to hold it there, and you're going to set your plate back on. Here, I'll hold your coupler for you to help you out. Okay, now you put your plate back on. Let's see, make sure your plate is right, like that.
Okay.
You get it?
Yeah.
Now it's in place. I'm going to help you just by setting your screw in place. Okay, tighten that back down. One thing we want to note is that you can over-tighten the screw, so loosen that a little bit because we can't move the coupler back and forth.
Keep going, a little bit more. Keep loosening it.
There you go. Now his coupler in place. It's centering just like we like it. The next step we're going to do is upgrade our trucks.
The Shoreham Roundhouse was built in phases between 1887 and 1919. As the railroad expanded, so did Shoreham. The first 18 stalls were built in 1887, 28 more were built between 1904 and 1919, providing the nearly complete circle at 46 stalls. After the roundhouse was closed in the 1990s, the Shoreham turntable was moved to Mason City, Iowa, where it remains in use today. Which of these Milwaukee EMD locomotives not make it to the SOO Milwaukee merger? Was it A, SD10, B, GP20, C, SDL39, or D, GP30? We'll find out later in this episode. All right, well, we finally reached the conclusion of a 2-year project, and it was all thanks to this photo. This is a prototype photo of Great Northern number 1075. It is the tail car on the Gopher Badger.
Circa 1970.
So it's kind of cool. I wanted to model this, and you say, well, you want to model this? You got to kitbash it and create your own. Well, this was actually an Edwin Nygaard model that is on Greg Smith's railroad. An inspirational piece nonetheless. He's using Union car sides with a Pullman core kit, and this is the process that kind of started to kick off the project that I was looking to do. Now, here's another prototype photo. This is actually 1073, another former Frisco car. And you don't have to start with the Frisco car. This one happens to be a Rock Island, but I end up using a Santa Fe car. I blew it all apart and started the process of converting and creating number 1075. Taking these things apart,
Kind of a nightmare.
putting them together,
It's about the same.
I end up deciding I'm going to put a Keep Alive in it, along with a TCS. This is a 2-function decoder to do the rear flashing lights and the interior lights. Now I jammed those down inside the interior. You're not going to see this stuff anyway, so it's going to get covered up. And to give you guys an idea of what's going on the inside, let's take a look.
I used a couple pieces of rail to be able to run the power from the pickups all the way to the back. I also did run 2 pickups off of the trucks themselves. And what do I mean by that?
Well, let's take a look.
Hold this thing together. This truck here, you can see I coil the wire just into a loop so that it has the ability to move freely. And the same on this end is just a little finer wire, but same concept, just so they can move freely. I did that because the pickups were not being very consistent.
To go from the truck itself to then touch the screws, and then the screws go up and touch a plate, and then they go up into the end of the car.
So if we open this up, you can kind of get a look at, turn the LEDs on. So the LEDs themselves, there's just 3 of them. It's nothing fancy. It's enough just to illuminate the interior. The keep alive, obviously it helps keep the lights on when it's moving.
Just lightly illuminating the people, as you can see here. Again, you don't want to over brighten it, you don't need to see it from space. Now here's something to be able to cut down on that light. I do put a piece of masking tape down. I end up painting the color of the car, the color of the shades inside the car, and then I use aluminum foil tape to go over the stuff that I painted so you don't have the light bleeding through that paint, or you don't have to lay down 10 coats of paint. As you can see here, that's the effect that you're getting, that the shades are pulled within the car, and then here's what it looks like when the lights are on. It's not a perfect solution, but it's a solution that's good enough to make it believable when it's on the rails. And that rear gyro light is actually a Details West. It's an SP style pile gyro light that I drilled out the center of and ended up putting in an LED to get the effect that we've got here. So let's take a look at it in action on the GN in 1970. And do note, the lights do not flicker. It's actually a confliction between the camera's frame rate and the frequency of the LEDs.
Sure, I don't know what that means, but whatever you say.
Those pesky roof walks, as you can see, they end up heaving. I end up using 10X. It's just a plastic weld to be able to hold the roof walks back down. What I end up doing is holding it down with the toothpick. I use the plastic weld and I just brush it on across the areas where the ribs are making contact with the roof walk. Now enough glue will drop down in there. The capillary action will create a little bit of puddling, but I use an X-Acto knife to be able to pop those little air bubbles. And it's nice to pop them before they dry, but you can still do it after if you forget. Now, as you can see here, there's another heave on the left side of the car, and it actually happens on the right. Because they have pins down into the roof of the car, it causes more issue. But I use the same technique, a little bit of the plastic weld down in through the roof walk, pop the air bubbles. Now, because of the hatches, I end up using a magnet, which is small enough to set on the roof walk and hold a 12-ounce weight in place. Now, these things are insanely strong, so watch where you got them because they will
Catch you when you don't expect it.
12 ounces pulled right off the car. Well, I end up getting it back in place, holding the roof walk down. I did it on the other end as well. Same technique, little magnet on the bottom of the weight. End up setting it in place after I pop the air bubbles. But this is the technique that I use for these particular cars that are mounted with little pins in the roof. I also use an alternate technique by popping the roof walk off, but I'm happy with the way it turned out. Now it's time for this car to get weathered.
He's got plastic wheels on here, and we're going to step up and put in some of these extra proto wheels that I had on hand. So we'll show them how we take those out, and we'll get these swapped out as well. And you're going to take the wheel out just by spreading the edges like this here. You go like this, and then you can take the wheel out. And to put them back in, you go like this here. You basically just put one end of the wheel in, push. Now what I did notice is that these are a little bit snug, so the wheel's not spinning freely. We're going to use the wheel tuner to be able to get those to work better. All right, we're going to use the Micromark wheel tuner to be able to get the trucks to spin a little nicer. I'm going to do this one here, and I'm actually going to wheel tune his for him because there is a little bit of pressure that's needed to be able to get this to work effectively. So you basically take the wheel tuner, put it into the truck frame, just like you would be putting in a wheel, right like that there. Apply a little bit of pressure, and you're going to spin this, and as you can see, you're getting some of the plastic carved out of the journal. Spin it around. One thing Micromark could have done was had the wheel tuner on both ends, so you could do it at the same time, but you're going to have to do each journal one by one. There we go, it's spinning pretty nice. I want it to spin a little bit better, so I am going to retune just a little bit more. Okay, those spin nice. So we set with this. I'm going to put my screw back in.
If you know any younger modelers or people that are new to the hobby, these are the type of things that you got to do to have more reliable rolling stock.
All right, how do you feel about that, bud?
Good.
Does that look like a good upgrade?
Yeah.
All right, let's take it to the track. Take a look at how well it measures up.
Now I get it, I generally don't cover Bachmann or some of these simple type basic techniques, but when it comes down to it, us fellow modelers need to help out those that are just kind of coming into the hobby. As you can see here, the car is rolling well. and he actually did an install on his own 100%, so clearly the skills that were taught were attained. He ended up upgrading his entire fleet, which I was perfectly fine with. I'm willing to donate a few wheels and couplers so a kid can have a train that rolls a lot better. And here it is, in motion, on its way out. Do you have your answer ready?
I have my guess ready.
Which of these Milwaukee EMD locos did not make it to the SOO Milwaukee merger? Did you guess D, GP30? If you did, you'd be correct. The Milwaukee Road's GP30s would not make it into the merger as they came up short, being stored and then retired in 1984. Have you ever taken a freight car out of the box and thought,
This thing's kind of shiny.
here we've got an inner mountain cylindrical hopper that we're going to dull coat. You can see the roof is a little shiny. Now, if it's a brand new car, you might be able to leave it as is, but this thing's going to have a little age and needs to get weathered. I'll wipe out the fingerprints from those that had manufactured it and set it on a couple of nuts.
These nuts.
We're going to do a little head-to-head tournament to find out which one's better. First thing you need to figure out what's flat and what's matte. Actually, flat paint is also called matte paint. Yes, they are virtually one and the same, and anybody that wants to tell you otherwise, well, talk to Krylon, talk to Rust-Oleum, talk to all the paint manufacturers that say,
It's actually just a flat finish.
all right, we're going to do a little shakedown and breakdown between each of these. The head-to-heads, we're going to start out with testers. We're going to look at the price as well as the quantity that's in the can. For testers, 3 ounces, $5.79. It's $1.93 per ounce. Testers facing off against Plaid Matte Spray at 6 ounces, $5.38, 87 cents per ounce. A big matchup here is going to be Krylon versus Rust-Oleum, 11 ounces, $4.99. That's 45 cents per ounce. While the Rust-Eel rattles its ball for $4.49 at 12 ounces, that's 37 cents per ounce. Here's the spendy one in the neighborhood at $2.35 an ounce. It's going to be Tamiya facing off against Xenolite. This just happens to be a can that I came across at my grandpa's house, and I use it. It still works, but I don't think you can buy it. Here's another matchup with Rust-Oleum tangling with Krylon. Here's
Dead flat.
11 ounces, 73 cents an ounce. We're looking at Krylon Color Max. They're 11 ounces at 36 cents an ounce. Now, I'm not going to bore you with the spray outs for every single one of these. I'm just going to tell you which one came out more flat, which is a better result that we're looking for in the Testers versus Plaid. Testers came out more flat. We end up looking Krylon versus Rust-Oleum. The Krylon matte finish came out more flat. The Tamiya versus Xenolite. The Tamiya came out looking a lot more flat. The Rust-Oleum dead flat versus Krylon. Krylon comes out on top. Now Testers versus the matte finish of Krylon. Testers takes the cake. End up Tamiya versus Krylon. Krylon ends up taking the cake. Now let's take it to the championship. We're going to see these ones head-to-head on an actual freight car. As I said, Testers Dull Coat versus Krylon Color Max Clear. Mainly for clarification, Testers is actually a Rust-Oleum product, just so people are aware. Let's do the head-to-head. As always, using a well-ventilated area, but we're starting with the Krylon Color Max. I'm just lay down a nice even coat. You can see it dries. It's drying quite nice. We move over to the Testers. We do the same thing, lay down a nice even coat. This is just on the opposite side of the car. And we take a look at a head-to-head comparison here now. It definitely gives it a lot more even-looking finish and will allow chalk to bite into it nicely. And sometimes when you're weathering, that's a key element. But this is what Testers looks like. We'll slide over to Krylon. Now, as you can see, Krylon, I think this looks a lot flatter. And when comparing to Testers, I think we've got our answer. Krylon's the king. As far as all these different spray outs were concerned, Krylon definitely allowed the flattest finish to be had on the car. And if your end goal is a flat finish, I think this one is definitely key, especially for the cost. When all is said and done, you can use a combination of any of these for the results you're trying to achieve, but when we're looking for the flattest finish, it's definitely Krylon Color Max. And for consistency purposes, I'm going to spray up the entire car, weather it a little, and show you how it turned out.
Here's the curmudgeon coming at you for the Gripe of the Week. The Gripe of the Week this week is about ballast. If you put ballast on your track, you're going to ruin your railroad. It's going to get so bad, I'll tell you right now, it's going to cause problems on the switches. It's going to get noisy. There's going to be problems. If you do anything with ballast, you're going to ruin your railroad. So if you like what you've done so far, you're going to want to stop. And that's the curmudgeon's Gripe of the Week. So if you like what you've done so far, you're going to want to stop.
A big thanks to everybody that watches to the end, that has hit like, hit subscribe, as well as made comments in the past. It's those actions that help share this content, so if you haven't checked out other episodes, feel free to do so. You can also check out the tour of the GN in 1970, as well as the past episodes of the GN in 1970.
70s.
So if you like what you've done so far, you're gonna want to stop.